Hey everyone, this is Coach Chance. We're back with week 2 of the winter session of Sky Oaks Online Chess Club 2021. And today we will be going over how to make a plan. Last week we talked about the opening and some basic rules for going through the opening. And this week we're going to talk about what we're going to do once we get through the opening. And so today I have to thank my friend Vinny for helping me out with our example game. He helped me out in playing some moves, and so we will be going through a mock game that we played beforehand. So you'll see in this game that I am playing as black. And so uh, first, white plays e4, grabbing those center squares like we had talked about before, and I played e5, which controls these two squares, and white has these two squares. So we each have a couple of center squares like we talked about last week. Moving forward, white goes ahead and attacks that pawn, and so I will defend that pawn with knight to c6, getting our knights out first. And Vinny goes ahead and plays bishop to c4, which attacks the f7 pawn, also develops a bishop. I developed my bishop in return. That's not how I wanted things to go. We'll get back to that point. Okay, so after bishop to d5, bishop to c5, the move castles was played, getting their king castled, and knight f6 was played, going ahead and attacking that e4 pawn. D3 was played to defend, open up your bishop for some more development. And I opened up my bishop again for more development. We're still in the opening. This is all stuff that we went over last week. Going ahead and getting that last knight out, going ahead and getting a bishop out. And the only thing that we haven't done so far is castle. But pretty much we have gone through the entire opening. We're safe for the most part, right? We've gotten all of our pieces developed. We're ready to castle. We just have to decide which way. So, now that we are through the opening, we need to make a plan for the rest of the game. How are we going to continue to play the game in the long term? What's our strategy to go ahead and go for checkmate? So if you'll notice, the white king has already castled into the king side. He's locked himself into this side, and there's a lot of pieces over here on the queen side. So he does not have as many defenders over here. So in order to attack the king, we're going to have to attack on the king side. Now, if we want to attack on the king side, do we want to castle king side or do we want to castle queen side? I'll have you guys pause the video right here for a couple seconds and deliberate which one you want to do. Go ahead and pause. Right, we probably want to end up castling queen side, right? If you want to attack somebody on a side, you don't want to have to defend your king on that side either. So we're going to plan to go ahead and castle queenside, and once we have castled queenside, we're going to go ahead and since there's nothing on our king side over here to keep safe, we can go ahead and toss all of our pieces at his king in order to try and open it up and get some good attacking. So that's going to be my strategy for the rest of this game. I'm going to, number 1, castle queenside, and number 2, go ahead and toss these pawns up at him so that he has to either take or do something that gets his king open, okay? The only thing that you need to know about making a plan once you've made it is that there are going to be some things that your opponent does that makes you stop in the middle of your plan and make a response. Okay? Things that your opponent does that will make you stop your plan for a moment and make a response. When that happens, and you should be looking for it every move, you need to take a move, find the best response, and make it before you continue your plan. So let's see an example of this in the game. We see that, okay, our bishop is being attacked here. That stops our plan. We can't go ahead and start to set up to castle queenside until our bishop is safe. So we're going to slide our bishop back, and now it's safe. And now we're back in the mindset we're going to continue our plan. They went ahead and put bishop on g5. Does that stop our plan? No. We have to get this queen out of the way in order to castle queenside, so we're going to go ahead and do that. We've now opened up to castle queenside. After this move, though, we see that white has two attackers on this knight, and we only have one defender, so we have to figure out a way to either protect that knight or do something else with it. Go ahead and pause the video and ask yourself, what would you do in this situation? I'll have you pause now. All right. After pausing, there are a couple of options that are okay in this scenario. The number one option, though, would be to go ahead and take this knight, because then you are no longer under attack by the bishop, and you've gotten rid of one of the attackers. So after knight takes d5, bishop takes d5 was played, bishop takes the knight, and now we see that we have another issue with our plan, okay? We have the bishop that's blocking us from castling. And that's a big deal because castling is a big part of our plan. So we have to stop the bishop from attacking that d8 square that's stopping us from castling. The best way to do this is to play f6 and just block the bishop from moving on in the first place. So after bishop back here, we'll go ahead and castle queenside just like we wanted to do for our plan, right? And then rook to e1 is played, going ahead and attacking that center, trying to attack it. So, but now we're free to continue on with our plan. White hasn't done anything that screws with our plan at all, so we'll go ahead and start moving these pawns up to try and attack this king side. So after g5, we're forcing this bishop back in, and we just have to decide what we're going to do next. Bishop back with the idea of continuing to push more pawns is what was played, and they're playing queen here, which doesn't do anything to stop us from continuing with that plan. So we're going to continue pushing pawns up there. And they have gone h4. Now, h4 is an interesting move. If you remember why we made this plan in the first place, it was to go ahead and open up that king. But another idea is once we take here on this pawn, we'll have this nice open file for our rooks that's pointing right at their king. So let's go ahead and take that pawn. Now, our new plan, that now that we've completed our old plan, which is castle queenside, get our rooks connected, and open up the enemy king, that's completed. We'll make a new plan right now. You might have to make 1, 2, 3, or maybe even 4 plans within a game in order to be successful. So, after bishop takes h4, we have to come up with this new plan, right? Now that we have this open file, we'll want to get our rooks on the file and go ahead and attack the king, right? We want to put our rooks there so that we have a good attack. The biggest issue right now is that we have to go to that square in order to put our rooks on this file. The bishop is attacking that square, so we're going to have to find a way to get rid of that bishop. So we'll go ahead and play bishop to f7, blocking the bishop from getting to that point. After bishop takes f7, we play queen takes, and we are all set up to put our rook on g8, slide it up, slide the other one over, and go ahead and attack that g2 pawn, like our plan is, right? After rook to d1, which just defends that pawn, maybe sets up for a d4, there's nothing that's stopping us from doing our plan, so we're going to continue on with that plan. We'll slide our rook over with the idea of doubling our rooks. Then d4 is played. Our opponent's plan is to attack up the middle. So here, this is a point at which we have to go, oh, they're doing something that makes us stop our plan for a move, or even 2 or 3, and we have to respond. Now, this pawn is attacking our bishop, which is very bad for us if we just let it go. So we'll count how many attackers we have on this pawn, which is, if you see there, the pawn is 1, the bishop is 2, and the knight is 3, and they have 1, 2 defenders on it. Count that, 2, knight, and the rook. So we have 3 attackers versus 2 defenders. So it is safe to go ahead and take this pawn. I decided to do it with the knight. The bishop would have been just as fine, and the pawn would have been fine too. But knight takes, and we still have 2 attackers on that, so we'll go ahead and take with our bishop. And the rook takes, which actually makes them go down a little bit of material in points. But we are okay with that. Our plan doesn't change. We still want to slide this up and go ahead and attack that g2 pawn. And after queen to d3, we are losing that pawn, but we are up in material. So we'll go ahead and make a move that allows us to continue with our plan. We'll play rook to g7 with the idea of moving this rook over to g8 on the next move. The queen goes ahead and takes, and there's no real danger here, so we'll just continue to do our plan, right? This is our plan. We're setting up for this move right here. Bishop takes here, which is completely fine. We'll go ahead and play rook takes g2, just like we planned. So now that that plan is over, we need to make a new plan, right? And mostly, this plan is just attack the king. We've gotten to this point where basically white is forced to slide over, and now it's just basic principles, right? The king is out here. We'll count our material versus their material. We have a queen, they have a queen. We have a rook, they have a rook. But they have a bishop to our rook. So we're up in material. So we do want to trade pieces. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then we'll keep attacking. We'll slide this rook over and do check. We'll go ahead and slide this queen out here with the idea of check. We want to go ahead and attack the king, right? After e5, we're completely fine with that because it opens up this new attack on the king. We'll go ahead and make that move. We keep checking the king, and we'll take that pawn right there. Sliding over is perhaps not the best move in this situation, but that's okay. We'll just keep checking the king. And so right here, it's checkmate in 2. I'll let you guys go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out the checkmate in 2 moves. Go ahead and pause now. Okay, so the first move in this sequence is queen to g6 check. And that forces king to h4. There's no other move that white can make. If you didn't see that before, Go ahead and try again and see if you can find the checkmate this time. Pause now. All right, for all of you people that found it, good job. Rook h1 is checkmate. We are cutting off the king on this file and cutting off the king on this file. We're cutting off that square, that square, that square, that square, that square, and that square. There's nothing white can do to block, so this is checkmate. Of course, today's objective was to go over how to make a plan. So going back to the beginning, once you're out of the opening, we'll go back through here. Our plan was originally to castle queenside and open up their king. Once we completed that plan, by doing that, we made the new plan of sliding our rooks over to g8 and g7 and attacking that g2 pawn like this. And then once that plan was completed, we just got to attack, like our plan suggested that we do. So, after all of this, you guys should be able to know how to think about making a plan. It doesn't mean that you guys will be great at it yet. It takes practice in order to make a plan and make a good plan. But if you're thinking about making a plan, that's a very good practice for the future, and it will make you a much better chess player as you grow. Have a great week, and thank you guys for watching.